No? Awesome. Okay, please take your seats because we are about to start the big event. Welcome, everyone. My name is Vanessa Kaufman. I am delighted to moderate this session today. For those of you who don't know me, I am the director of the Alliance to Stop Foodborne Illness, a wonderful partnership between companies and stakeholders, including regulators, and our constituent advocates. We are hosting a very different session than we normally do today. So we are going to have a food safety culture debate club. And it is being cast live, obviously here in the room, and then also on Zoom for our participants. This is a part of our normal webinar series, and this is episode 6 of season 2. If you would like to access the materials from any of the prior sessions, they can be found here. You can scan the QR code or go to stopfoodborneillness.org and find all the materials. And yes, we have a wonderful variety of white papers, all the recordings and different materials from prior sessions. I also have a few housekeeping things to walk through. So obviously this event is being recorded. You can earn 1 continuing education credit for this session, and then also 1 for each of the sessions in the series. These are accredited by NEHA, and at the very end of the session you will be asked to take a survey, a brief survey. I think there's 3 questions about how this format went and if you would like to see it again. So for today's lineup, on to the big event. In this corner, we have Lone Jespersen and Karen McCarty. Do you want to stand up? Yeah. Woo!
Also known as the winning team.
Lone is the founder of Cultivate SA, an organization dedicated to help organizations in the global supply chain make safe, great-tasting food through cultural effectiveness. Lone has worked with improving food safety through organizational culture improvements for 18 years. She holds a PhD in culture-enabled food safety from the University of Guelph and a master's in mechanical engineering from Syddansk University in Denmark. Lone serves as the vice chair of the IFPTI board and, most importantly, a board member of Stop Foodborne Illness. And Karen McCarty, who recently retired from Agropur, where she served as Senior Director of Commercial Quality Assurance. In her retirement, Karen will continue to contribute her knowledge and passion to the industry through volunteer work with the Innovation Center for U.S. Dairy. And on the other team, we have Conrad Choiniere and Kelly Stevens. Conrad is the director of the Office of Microbiological Food Safety. With over 20 years at FDA, he has extensive experience leading FDA regulatory initiatives. Conrad holds a doctorate in agricultural economics from the University of Maryland and a bachelor's in chemical engineering from Johns Hopkins University. Kelly is the director of Global Food Safety Center of Excellence at General Mills. She joined General Mills in 2004. Her previous experience includes 8 years at Campbell Soup Company, and Kelly holds MS and PhD degrees in food science from North Carolina State University. With these experts up here, I think each team is going to have their work cut out for them.
I just want to add that what Lone meant to say is that we all win when there's a strong food safety culture.
Nope. Let the games begin. So, what you can expect today, we will have 4 rounds. Each round will take about 8 minutes, and I will be super strict on time. Note this giant red button here that will get pushed if folks go over their allotted time. You can hear it. Here we go. That is the noise. You're very welcome, Lone. Each team will have a chance to respond to a statement, either in the affirmative or negative, and the other team will respond. We will go back and forth, and then you, the audience, actually, this has changed from what we decided about an hour ago. We will have some polling questions, so keep your phones handy. Once you scan the QR code, you can leave your phone open, and the QR code will refresh itself, so you won't have to scan again, but if you need to, you can. I do want to note that sides were pre-selected backstage and may in fact, and probably don't, reflect what the speakers and their respective institutions think. But in the spirit of Debate Club, they will debate the side that has been assigned to them to the best of their ability. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so round one, the question that these kind folks are going to debate is food safety culture starts at the top, but I'd invite you all to scan the QR code and let us know what you think. Does food safety culture start at the top at your organization? Okay, so yes, it starts at the top for a little over 80% of folks who have responded. And to the folks who are on Zoom, you can also respond. We are recording your results in here with the great folks in the room. So should we kick it off with the first team to go, Lone? You were on the pro side. Round one, food safety culture starts at the top. Start the timer. You have 3 minutes.
Well, thank you very much for being here after a fantastic summit and for being part of debating these important questions. While we like to have fun, it is very much important that we get as many diverse perspectives out on these questions, because that's how we all learn as much as possible. So, McKinsey put out about 5 years ago a study on cultural transformation and the success rate. And about 70% of those that had answered their questions around, have you gone through a cultural transformation, who answered yes to that, and who then subsequent were asked, was it successful? In other words, did it deliver on the intent of the transformation? 70% said no. Brain and Company also did a similar type survey just about 2 years ago, and they came to the conclusion that 12% of these transformations achieved the intended outcome. When you probe into that and say, so why did we have such a high failure rate? It comes down to that these transformations were not either started or owned at the most senior level of a company. And this is very relevant as we're talking about whether food safety culture starts at the top, because in most cases we're looking at a transformation, a cultural transformation, where food safety becomes part of what the organization, the company, decides is important for it to be successful. Important to say that we're managing risks appropriately, important to say that food safety is part of how we're educating, setting performance goals, making sure that everybody understands their unique role in food safety, and how our company values drive that. So we are a firm, Karen and I, a firm yes to that food safety culture starts at the top. It's also because both of us have seen plenty of transformation initiatives, well-meaning, well-structured, that never delivered on what they were supposed to. And all you get out of that is people that keep seeing an intent for change that never really made it to changing behaviors or making food safer. So we'd like to say that unless we engage our team leaders, our company leaders as food safety professionals, we engage our company leaders in a way that meets them on their turf. So what does it mean for a CEO to own food safety outside it being an audit, check the box? What does it mean to interpret your organizational values for food safety? You are highly unlikely going to see change to your food safety performance, and let alone for that performance to be sustained over time. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Vanessa.
And I didn't even have to push the button. Conrad, you've got the con side.
Thank you, Dr. Jespersen, but I have to respectfully disagree. I don't know who said it first, but ever since I've heard it that first time, I have completely disagreed with this statement that it starts at the top. And why? Because every company I have ever spoken to about food safety culture, I'm not talking to the CEO. I am talking to the people that are in this room that are working day to day on their food safety culture. Another reason why I can tell you that it doesn't start at the top, every webinar that we've done, and how many have we done? At every webinar there is a question asked, how do we engage our senior leaders? Does that sound like it's starting at the top? Does not. It starts from the middle. It starts with those that are the middle managers that have direct relationships with those on the floor. They are the ones that set the tone for how things are done around here. And without that influence on the floor, food safety culture is never going to blossom. Now, you could argue that you can't be a mature food safety culture without the engagement of those at the top, but I don't think you can argue that it starts there. The food safety quality managers have direct impact on those that are making the food. They are the ones that are formulating what trainings are needed. They are the ones whose recognition counts. When someone recognizes that they did a good thing, it counts the most when it comes from their boss, and it counts the most when it comes from their boss's boss. But it doesn't really resonate when it comes from someone that's probably a dozen levels above them. So with that, I know I still have a minute, but I think I've made the case. I know that Dr. Jespersen came with a lot of fancy data points, but I don't think they point to the reality of food safety culture. Thank you.
Thank you, Conrad. Karen, you have 1 minute to respond.
Thank you. I think it's important to recognize that what Conrad said is true. We actually do work from the middle, and that is where change can happen, but that change is not going to be sustainable unless it is supported and led by your senior leadership. Think about how you make change and how you set direction as your organization. Strategy comes from your leadership team. Strategically, if they decide that it is important to put dollars and money and resources into food safety culture, that will fundamentally be an expectation for each of those teams to tactically execute against the goals of food safety culture. But the strategy has to come from the top, so the expectation and accountability is led top down.
Kelly, 1 minute to you.
Thank you. As I look around the room, I ask myself, how many CEOs are here today? I heard there was one. And as I think about the conference, I think about all of these food safety professionals connecting. And in that connection, you're making new connections, you're making new thought processes, you're sharing stories, you're building culture. And you're taking those insights back to the organization where you work, sharing them, and again, deepening that culture of whatever it is in your organization that you're working on, but you're sharing, you're deepening relationships, you're building trust, you are effectively spreading culture. So I thank you for that. And I want you to reflect on what is the impact that you have in your day-to-day organization and on the people around you. Thank you.
I was dying to push the button. Just in the nick of time. Thank you for debating the long-standing belief, or the much-touted sentence, that food safety culture starts at the top. I think we'll have to ask the audience who won that one after the other questions are said. Okay, round two. Food safety culture is expensive. Now, I encourage everyone in the room and on Zoom to take out your phones and vote. And we have the results being broadcast here around, moving a little bit, but most folks are saying, no, food safety culture does not need to be expensive. Okay, I'm going to turn back to Kelly, who is going to go on the pro side of, yes, food safety culture is expensive. Kelly?
Thank you. Interesting results. So I would say food safety culture is expensive. And what I want you to think about is both the monetary costs as well as the human costs, that work that gets done by us each and every day to embed the culture with us and with our people around us. Culture work requires sustained organization-wide investment, again, both financial as well as in people. Creating and sustaining that positive culture depends on leadership, communication, training, infrastructure, continuous improvement. These are all things that cost money, they cost time, personal commitment, so that you can build and maintain successfully. I would say that culture work is analogous to self-care at the organizational level. And I would say food safety culture goes beyond compliance checklists, right? It demands training, coaching, measurement, and those hard conversations sometimes that the culture leads to the trust to be able to enable that conversation. In case you aren't aware, there's a fantastic toolkit from the Alliance to Stop Foodborne Illness, and it's designed to help companies evaluate and nurture their culture. Remember, culture is an intentional, ongoing journey, not a one-off project, and that in itself will have non-trivial costs associated with it, and you need to think about these along with all of your other priorities. Embedding food safety culture means engagement at every level of the organization. We can debate it where it starts, at the top or the middle with all of us, but you have to bring those organizational values to life, those behavior expectations, modeling that behavior. I remember my first plant manager told me, I am now dinner table conversation for every employee that worked there, because of the behaviors that I showcase, people will remember. So you need to have leadership bandwidth in order to be able to have the coaching skills, in order to be able to model behavior. Again, I refer you to these webinars. You can watch them over and over again, stream them on a Saturday, it's great. Because it allows you to interpret and internalize and have new insights depending on where you are in the journey. Culture doesn't just happen, it takes time, work, and intentionality. So yes, food safety culture is expensive to build and maintain. The monetary cost, a human cost, and it's important, dare I say essential. Beyond the checklist, it hits all the feels so that we can build trust and engagement. Thank you.
So food safety culture doesn't need to be expensive. When you take a look, when you actually really unpack what food safety culture is, and I think part of the problem is if you're a smaller organization or you're newer to the food safety culture, or maybe you're just engaging in food safety culture because, oh no, it's an SQF version 10, and all of a sudden, what do I do? Or I got an audit finding and I need to fix it. You feel like you have to create a large, overwhelming program or something new and different to solve the problem. But fundamentally, food safety culture is based on what we do today. It's risk assessment, it's risk prevention, it's putting together programs, tools, and strategies that are founded on what we all do today. Fundamental food safety that's been out there for years, HACCP plans, food safety plans, regular process improvement, even just line improvement or speed improvement. You've got professionals within your organization today that have those skill sets. They have the ability to take apart a process and figure out where do we want to drive the improvement. You might be doing a Lean Six Sigma, and you can do a DMAIC. You can do a lot of different things that are within today's toolbox. Once you understand what food safety culture is, and once you understand its tangible, practical, science-based ways of evaluating the source of your company's behaviors and beliefs, you can identify where you want to make that improvement, and you can use what you're already good at in manufacturing to engineer and put together a program using your existing teams, your existing tools to drive improvement. It's improvement in what you're already doing today. If you want to move from a reactive food safety culture where I've had a problem, I've had an issue, I've lost a lot of money, I've put a lot of product on hold, do a root cause analysis, figure out what solved the problem, and fundamentally ingrain the solution of that problem into your workforce. I want to have a product that has less visible specs in it. I want less defects. The reason for that is I need my guys to do it, sorry, guys, gals, apologize. I need my team to do a better job of inspecting my line and making sure that I don't have that particular defect. Coach people that their expectation to do their job is to do their preventive maintenance, to work that in, make a higher quality product, generate less losses. Fundamentally, by doing those things that you already do well, and you just fundamentally do them better, you actually end up saving your company money. And those small investments you might have to do in the beginning to maybe understand a toolkit or put policies and procedures in place pay dividends once you start reducing risk, creating higher quality product, and reducing your losses.
I know, I'm never going to get to push this button. It's okay. You guys are being very respectful. Conrad, a minute to you.
Thank you. I think my colleague has laid out that time is essential. Time on the part of the food quality manager, time on the part of all of the individuals in the organization to intentionally have a strong food safety culture. And we all know that time is money. And it takes a lot of time, and it's an ongoing commitment day after day after day to be vigilant to ensure a strong food safety culture. It is expensive, but the alternative is much more expensive. Having a poor food safety culture can lead to disastrous financial outcomes for industry. So it is the best investment that one can make because your organization is worth it, and so are the consumers that have your foods. Thank you.
Lone, a minute to you.
Thank you very much. Well, for something to be expensive or perceived as expensive, we have to attach value to it. So if paying for something gives you value at a certain level or exceeds your expectations, then it's not perceived as expensive. So I'm going to go back to something Karen said, my partner in crime, and in debate, that if we actually do a really robust root cause analyses and we can remove defects or risks for our consumers, then investing is not going to be perceived as expensive because it has a very strong and very real value for both our leadership, our company, and of course for our consumers. So I think as we say that food safety culture is not expensive from our end, it's because when we do a good job attaching and explaining value of food safety culture to those that actually need to sponsor it, because it starts at the top, thank you, then, there we go. I was trying. I was giving you a chance here.
I know. I feel like that was a
Thank
gift.
you.
So thank you, Lone. Okay, round 3. Food safety culture should be audited. Please take out your phones and select what you think. We're having a little debate up here about what the question should be, but this is the question, so. And it looks like, yes, 72%-ish of folks say that food safety culture should be audited. And Conrad, I go over to you on the pro side. If you want to take a different question, you're more than welcome. You've got 3 minutes.
I will take the question as you have asked it. Thank you very much. I can already predict what the other team will say. They will tell you that food safety culture is not a checklist. Well, I'm here to tell you that checklists are good. That checklists provide an easy way for someone to make a quick observation of whatever it is they want to audit. And food safety culture is something that should be audited and should be auditable. It should be able to be distilled to some form of a checklist so that a third party can come in and do some sort of an assessment of your facility. For instance, should a regulator such as myself choose to come into your facility and assess your food safety culture? No, we are not planning on doing that, but should we decide to do that, we might need to have a checklist. We might need to have a checklist for that investigator to follow in order to assess at least a part of your food safety culture. It gives insight into the infrastructure behind your food safety culture. It can tell us, okay, do you have the appropriate infrastructure, the appropriate types of trainings, the appropriate types of communications, the frequency of your meetings with your staff or with your CEO? Do you have all the various elements that we in our webinar have talked about that are essential for a strong food safety culture? It helps us get away from this we know it when we see it mentality. Because how many of you have heard that, right? I've heard it from people inside my agency. Oh, I walk into a facility and I know they have a good food safety culture. And I kind of call BS on that. Sure, you might get a sense, you might get a vibe, but a vibe is not enough. We need something quantifiable, something tangible to point to when it comes to food safety culture. And we don't have time to be doing surveys. And how many people actually respond to the surveys that you put out there? So I think that they should be audited. They provide all of you an opportunity to get someone else's perspective on how things are going for you. They give a quick snapshot in time, another piece of information for you all to take and to improve areas that have been identified as weaknesses in the audits, in your audits. And with that, I will pass it on to the opposing team.
Thank you, Conrad.
I used to like Conrad a lot. And then Vanessa, no, anyway, sorry, Vanessa. So we are saying no. Bless you, Ross. We're saying no. Food safety culture should not be audited. There's two main reasons for that. The first reason is that it's because of how we, generally speaking, treat audits when we talk about food safety audits. We look at putting checks in boxes. I too like checklists, especially when I get on a flight and I know that the pilot is using a pre-start checklist, but that's set in a very mature culture of managing risks that they do that. Over 80% of the companies that we work with and have assessed have immature food safety cultures. And that means that if you put checklists in place, then it becomes just that, putting checks in boxes. So I don't disagree with Conrad that checklists are valuable, but it depends on the culture that you're in and the setting you're in. So we cannot audit food safety culture because of how we treat audits is one thing. If you ask my dear friend Andrew Clark from Loblaws, he would say that you don't audit food safety culture, you audit the outcomes of a company's culture and how it treats food safety. So that means that, very much agreeing with Conrad again, you go out and you actually ask people questions around how their culture materializes itself, how does it show up, what does it do for people, how do they behave. And that means that we have to challenge all of those that call themselves auditors to be both very versed, as many are in today, in systems, and to be much better at understanding human behaviors and how cultures materialize itself in operations every day. That's the evolution that we believe we're standing across from if we actually want to have food safety and organizational culture make a difference to those of us who consume foods made by others every day. So no, food safety culture should not be audited. The outcomes of food safety culture should most definitely be audited as part of delivering safe food every day. And checklists have most definitely a place when you're working in a very mature culture. So I'm sorry to have to disagree with Conrad. It's not something we do often, but I will say that on this particular point, I feel very strongly that if we go down further, which we keep seeing as well in updated standards, that we get more and more prescriptive around what a company's food safety culture should look like. For example, you must have an assessment of food safety culture. Then I'm going to have to say that I'm afraid that we're going to fail on this particular topic. And I don't want anybody to have to do that because of the consequences to human life. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Lone. A minute to Kelly.
Alrighty. Well, that was interesting. I think they agreed to disagree. I thought I heard Lone say at certain parts she agreed. But I also heard a lot about vibes and checklists, and it made me really think about, it's really important that as we think about an audit of our food safety systems, inclusion of food safety culture in that audit helps provide a holistic view on all the aspects of food safety going on in that facility. Looks at your management systems, look at your culture, so you can get data that you can use to look at your assessment, right? That's why we pay for them. And I think about the C's, right, that we've heard. We started with checklists. I'll add culture being the foundation of compliance and all part of continuous improvement. And I don't know why I had 3 minutes.
Don't make me push the buzzer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. As Lone talked about, I think the important thing to remember is auditing the program itself may not be the right tool to raise awareness in the company and drive the right kinds of behaviors that potentially a low score in an audit for food safety culture gives. What we need to do is have conversations and do talk about those deliverables. If you walk around a facility and you see manifestations of poor programs and poor systems, give demerits for poor programs and poor systems. That's what the audit is for. But then I think you need to sit down and have a really real conversation about what's leading to the behaviors and the reasons for those choices as to why that firm is not behaving correctly. Have a very different kind of conversation, find some kind of alignment, and push the cause of shifting beliefs and values and culture more so than I need you specifically to do a task in a certain way, clean this room in a certain way, and that's my measure of your culture. Measure of culture is something very different. It's results, but it comes out of the beliefs and the values of the organization, which cannot be measured with a checklist.
Thank you. Okay. Things are heating up here. We are going to move into our last round. And a question I think that's on everyone's mind: a strong food safety culture delivers positive food safety culture or positive food safety outcomes. Do you believe that a strong food safety culture delivers positive outcomes?
I'm the pro, right? Yes. Okay, good.
Yes, and Karen, you are the pro. We've got about 80% of people who are responding say yes, strong culture equals positive outcomes.
Okay, so fundamentally, when we talk about food safety culture, what we're looking for is driving different outcomes. We want to drive those outcomes through beliefs, through values, and the ways of doing things. And that's how you do that, and the way you do that is you build that through your entire organization. So the accountability and the expectation of how those people execute their jobs is tied to why they're doing it. So your frontline worker understands it's really important to us as an organization to provide safe food to whatever industry you go into. I understand the choices and the decisions that I make create a high quality product, and it's my job, it's my responsibility, it's my expectation. If I see something on the line that is not is not in line with the culture that we've set or the expectations we set, I raise my hand. I'm empowered to raise my hand. I stop the line, I make the choice, I hold back the product, and I don't release it into the marketplace. That creates a really positive feeling for that employee. That shows that the choices we make as an organization are protecting our customers. You can take that so far as to have a conversation with your customer and say, hey, just want to make sure you understand. I noticed that we had this particular defect on the line. I know we plan to make product for you. We're not going to make your shipment date, but we're not shipping that to you because that product doesn't meet your expectation. That customer now understands that you're making choices for their benefit. You're making choices for them. You're aligned with what they want for their consumers, for what they want for their brand protection if you're a supplier. So by making those positive choices, you create this amazing feedback loop for your employees that they positively get reinforced, because part of your culture is recognition, right? It isn't just do a job and do it on an island. You call out and you recognize and you applaud those people for making those choices. They get rewarded, and that positive feedback loop feeds positive reinforcement and better choices moving forward. When that choice then leads to positive outcomes for the organization, I stopped the line and I maybe prevented a recall. I raised my hand and I showed my supervisor about a condition in the facility that was causing a quality problem. We stopped it right away, or we at least identified where the problem started, so I can keep that impacted product away from my customer. I can prevent the recall, I can prevent the loss. And as you start to figure out why those problems happen, you're having employees engage in those conversations, and they help you understand what are the reasons why I'm not being successful. They get heard, they have a voice, and all of a sudden they're now proactive for you. They're making choices for you and your organization that prevents these problems. It reduces your risks, and it sets you up successfully to make better choices, to be more profit savvy, to be more saving, to protect your customers and protect their brand. Fundamentally, you might get more market share. You might gain better high-skilled employees. You become an attractive place to work because your employees have a voice. and are tied to the outcome of what you do for food safety. I know. I paused
right
for a
in the
second. I'm
nick
like,
of
did you buzz
time.
me?
Okay, Kelly, over to you for the con side.
All right, well, thank you. So Karen, I really like the description of that facility that you're working with and the operator accountability and the trust that's been built between the operator and their frontline leader. Really, really nice. I think we would all want to work there. With that, I disagree. I disagree because although food safety culture is absolutely important, the claim that a strong culture delivers positive outcomes really just overstates what we can reliably attribute to culture alone. Right, the evidence today on the direct causality is still limited and evolving. There are few, if any, direct links between specific culture metrics and reductions in foodborne incidents. Lots of tools are still being validated, so we are in a learning phase as we get there. Association between better, and I'm not sure what the definition of better is, cultural scores and outcomes are encouraging and maybe even directional, but they're not there yet. They're not clearly proving that culture itself is the cause, rather than a contributor in a broader ecosystem. I am a microbiologist and I think about hurdle theory all the time, right? So I think about this in that light as a parallel. And I would say food safety outcomes depend on many other factors besides culture, right? We think about the technology, the infrastructure, the resources, the age of equipment, food safety management system and its execution, to name a few. So with that, I believe that even a company with a strong safety culture can suffer an incident, and it can be to a lot of different factors, right? And conversely, an organization with a culture may have really good performance because their engineering controls are fantastic. Culture is one factor alone. So measuring strong culture itself is problematic, right? What is better, as we talk about that? There's no one size fit all, and I think we talked a little bit about how if people will respond to a survey and if they'll respond with honest answers, right? Again, building trust. And then finally, I think we all need to recognize that culture is a journey. It may not be linear. It may have a few bumps here and there. We may learn new things as we try new things. So again, it's one factor in a broader ecosystem in delivering safe food along the way. So in closing, I would say it's really important and it's really clear that a strong positive food safety culture alone does not create or deliver food safety outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. A minute to the other side.
Thank you very much. So we have an Australian client, and a number of years ago I visited there. And I was met by one of the frontline team members. We went and they grow and harvest and pack spinach. And in the spinach plant, there were two people. One had a red hairnet on, the other one didn't. The red hairnet, I'm in training. Her name was Bindi. And Bindi was there, and she bent down and she wanted to pick up some spinach that was on the floor. Sue was working with her and told her under no certain circumstances was she supposed to do that. And then she turned around and said, here's why that's important. But more importantly, she said, why did you do that? And Bindi explained that she did that because she didn't want to waste any product. She didn't want any of those hard-earned farmer dollars to go to waste. It was a direct food safety outcome from their culture that spinach from the floor didn't make it onto the belt where it could have ended up in somebody's belly. So when it comes to food safety culture, yes, it influences the performance and the outcome. And Vanessa's going to kick me off the stage. I want to hear it again.
I just want to use the
and
button.
Again. Thank you.
Lone. Conrad?
So, FDA did a literature review a few years ago, and one clear finding from that literature review was that no one has demonstrated that a positive, strong food safety culture leads to positive food safety outcomes. It's a fact. You cannot demonstrate. No one has demonstrated it yet. But I will end my 30 seconds with a call to action. I think we all have a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling inside when we think about positive food safety culture, and we all instinctively believe that it will result in the right outcomes. But I think we should all work to try to prove it. And if we have that evidence, if we have the empirical evidence, then we can translate that into financial value that we can then sell to our CEOs when it starts in the middle and we try and engage the top. Predictive validity now.
I think we should give a huge round of applause to everyone up here. We're trying something new, and I think it worked. We may not be friends after this, though. I do have another QR code for you, if I can remember to push the button. So I want to reflect, did today's debate change your mind on any of your previously held assumptions about food safety culture? You know, we ask to challenge assumptions all the time, and I'm curious if this helped you challenge some of yours. I don't know if you can see the results, debaters, so I will read them off to you. Did today's debate change your mind on any of your previously held assumptions about food safety culture? 3 or 4% say yes, my mind was changed significantly. 71% say yes, I'm walking away with a more nuanced understanding of complex topics. 25%, no, my opinions did not change much. And 3%, no, not at all. So we do have about 15 minutes left for some conversation, and I would invite all of the debaters up so we can chat a little bit about this crazy experience we've put you through.
I think we should first say a disclaimer, right? That the views you've heard expressed here today may not necessarily be our own.
Is that retroactive? Or?
Well, I think that's a great question. Did anybody's mind change up here? We asked the audience if they had changed. Have any of your long-standing assumptions or anything that you heard today kind of sway you in a different direction?
I'll share my feedback. It was the last question, the topic of does a strong food safety culture create positive outcomes? I'm of the camp of yes. But in all actuality, I'm not a data-driven person, so I don't have data to back up my opinion. I just feel it and I know it. I can tell when I walk on the shop floor. But it's a really fair point to say that success does need to be measurable, particularly if you're going to require reinvestment to have it keep going. You're going to have some kind of data to drive and show that those outcomes came from that specific action. So I think that's a really good point when you're navigating that conversation in your own company, that you need to have some data to what it is it may burn fiercely in your heart and soul that you know it's right, or you might lead with your gut, but back it up with data and make sure that you can have a practical conversation about substantiating the claim and the need for the resource or investment or tool to move it forward.
Take that.
Well, I heard her agree with us.
I just said thank you for enlightening me.
Oh,
is it not
you
loud
all
enough?
need to speak into the mics a little bit more so the folks in Zoom land can hear you.
Okay. All right. We can do that. Did you have any reflections you wanted to share, Kelly?
You can go first.
You know, I think there was a little bit of, I didn't feel strongly yes or no on any of these questions going into this debate. Obviously, I had to take a stance on them, but I think I heard something in each of the questions or each of the statements that resonated with me. I know one thing that I guess I wanted to ask you, Lone, you were referring to Andrew's statement that we don't audit food safety culture, we audit the outcomes of food safety culture. But how does that intersect with our last statement of, well, food safety culture does not predict food safety outcomes? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, I think it's about saying that if we keep auditing whether we have a a certain procedure in place, yes, no, and that's our focus of an audit, then we won't see the outcomes, the performance increase, or the performance improvements that a culture can potentially create if it's mature. But if we, on top of that, include observations of how people behave, we do interviews to see, to Karen's point, what are the deep beliefs of people, and we overlay that on a system evaluation, then I think we will start seeing some food safety performance improvements. And I will say that more often than not, we see when our clients start to approach stage 3 in our model, for example, your cost of quality actually often goes up, because now you've given a license to your teams to start bringing forward if there's some things that doesn't work, or with near misses, this could change how we do things and therefore make us more safe. So you might actually see that when we say it impacts food safety performance, you might actually see that your cost of quality goes up for a little while, and your performance might actually go down for a little while, right? So I think that's because we're looking at how people truly believe through the audit, and we're looking at their behaviors, not just whether you have these standards in place. Does that make sense?
Yes, but it does feed into the idea that food safety culture is expensive.
Has anybody ever met a regulator that just says, yeah, no, that's right? If I can build on that for a second, and just one thing two things actually that I heard that we really need to do much more with, middling people. Benjamin Franklin talked about middling people as the foundation for the beautiful society that we're standing in today. And I think we have to, as food safety companies, start to focus much more in on what is it that our middle managers and supervisors, etc., are experiencing every day. Never before have we had so much effort go towards that those middling people, and most of them are not able to get it done in a regular workday. Many of you are in the room today, I'm sure. And I really liked, Kelly, that you brought that forward, that you used the phrase, the middle people spread culture, and I very much agree with that as well. And it made me think about more how do we focus on that group. So I appreciate that.
You want to go? Yes.
Give me a second. Composing my thoughts, right? Because I think I was really inspired by Karen's comments, and there were a couple of times where she talked about, one, what it was like at the operator level when you have trust, and that trust in I can bring something forward without fear of repercussions or fear for my job, and I can bring things forward and make actions in line with my supervisor. And I think that is really where we all want to go as we talk about culture and food safety performance. So I like that story that you told. I don't know if it was from experience or generated for this, but I thought that was really powerful. And then the other thing I would say is, shameless plug, I binge watched all of the webinars in preparation for this, right? And I think it's important to note there's not a single direct approach, right? And you heard that in our comments today. But moving forward involves starting somewhere, right? And doing some type of assessment to see what it is your culture needs in that moment to advance.
And since we're doing shameless plugs, for the folks in the room, you have these bookmarks here, and they have a QR code on them, and it will take you directly to the Alliance to Stop Foodborne Illnesses Food Safety Culture Toolkit, which has a bunch of wonderful resources that are all free and will help you, hopefully, in your food safety culture journey. I am also curious if this exercise, if anybody is going to take this kind of idea forward with them, and if it can be used as you try to win arguments with folks in your companies. So, Lone, is there any feedback you can give or advice to folks when they're thinking about trying to get senior leaders on board or fighting for the resources that you might need to work on food safety culture? Is this an approach you might take with you?
You mean put on your boxing gloves? is that or do you mean the approach of a debate? Or?
The approach of thinking about the other side, perhaps, and like that, the pushback you might receive when you bring things forward.
I think we can all win by trying to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, especially when we're driving transformation. I was talking to somebody on the floor who had recently gotten a colleague who joined them from operations. I don't know if you're in the room. Nope. But from operations, long-term operations person in the company, and had now joined FSQ. And I think the more we do of that, lets us get more diverse perspectives in on what works, what doesn't work when we're asking people to own food safety. And it just challenges our assumptions, which I think is ultimately what we need to do more of.
Thank you for that. Anybody up here have any questions for one another?
Can I
Yeah,
add to that
please.
just really quick? I meant to give a plug to a presentation that was done this morning. It was one of the morning sessions on basically the cost of cost assessing risk and food safety, and I think that was it was a really interesting, again, for me, I'm not super data driven, but if I'm a food safety professional and I'm going to go to my leadership team and I'm going to help them understand why I want to do investment in structuring my programs different in building food safety, there are fundamental mathematical equations that you can use to talk to your company leadership, which a lot of days is financial-based folks, business-based folks, finance folks end up in a lot of company leaderships. They talk dollars and cents. They don't talk about the hazards. They don't want to talk about your HACCP plan. They don't want to hear you henny penny the sky is falling talking about how listeria is going to get in your product. That's not their language. But what you can do is you can, to the kind of point of like flip the narrative, make the conversation in a language that they can understand that makes your topic debatable and based on fact. So you can shift the conversation by changing the way that you communicate. You might want to lead with science and risk and talk about all of the things that are so obvious to you as a food safety professional, but you do have to shift that language around depending on who your audience is to make sure that your message is heard.
Thank you for that.
And I heard there was a session yesterday on the economics of food safety, and there's somebody who has done work on calculating the cost of recalls, calculating the cost of foodborne illness.
Yep, Melanie Newman's talk this morning, yep.
No, that was this morning too, okay. Well, I wish we could take questions from the audience.
Would you like to take a question from the audience?
If there is a
we
question
have
from the
time for
audience,
maybe
we would-
one or two questions. We don't have a mic runner, so if somebody wants to stand up, Vanya's going to do it. So, does anybody in the in the room have a question that you'd like to ask of the panel?
Or anybody
We
wanna
won't debate you.
someone on there?
Does anybody want to say who won?
We've got a question here. Can you say your name and your organization for the folks over in Zoom?
Sure. Name's Ryan Morris. I work with Bureau Veritas. So for me, culture is something that is intangible to a degree. So I guess I always have difficulty in trying to be able to quantify that. So I guess my question would be, are there any types of KPIs that you would use in order to be able to quantify that, in order to measure food safety culture, and then use that to develop a more mature culture?
I think you got to put it, first and foremost, you can measure culture. There's validated methods. We have a stack of peer-reviewed papers on how you do that, so happy to share those with you. But I think you're onto the right thing, though. It's about how do you measure the outcome of a mature culture as opposed to the culture itself. I'm a huge advocate of that you need to have indicators that are aligned to what level of maturity you are at. And I'll tell you why. If you're very immature in your culture, the behaviors you're trying to drive to get to the next stage, those behaviors are going to be different than if you're a very mature culture and you're trying to sustain. So if you're very immature, it might actually be okay to say we're passing an audit, or we don't have repeat findings, or training compliance, or a number of messages delivered by leaders on an annual basis or something like that. Very rudimentary, very tactical, but it might be okay because you're going from Nobody wants to talk to us about food safety. We'd like to have food safety be a bigger part of what it is that we do every day. Very immature. If you're more mature, where the company has invested in that everybody has a very unique role to play in food safety. In maintenance, I know that my role is to ensure that the equipment doesn't add foreign material to our products, for example. I know that's our role. We have the behaviors around it. We have the capabilities around it. Then it's a different indicator you need to move to the next level. Then you might want to look at near misses. How many near misses do you raise? And you might want to say, we want to see at least 80 near misses around food safety on an annual basis in a plant. Not say we just want people to raise near misses. No, set a target. And then force the thinking and the behavior of prevention into your culture. So I can share with you, we've mapped some indicators against the maturity stages. Happy to share that if that helps you with your fussiness. But indicators have to flex depending on where it is that you're at in your culture so that you can drive towards the next level of maturity and sustain it. Does that make sense? Yeah? Thank you for the question.
I think we have time for maybe one more quick question.
Just a quick show of hands for those of you in the room. For how many, is this the first of these webinars that you have seen?
Ah.
Well, if you want more, I would direct you to the STOP website, FDA website. This is a collaboration between FDA and STOP, and they're just about an hour long. We bring in firms of different sizes from different sectors, sharing their real-life experiences with different aspects of food safety culture, and we try to have some takeaways that you can try to incorporate within your own programs at your own work. So very, Kelly binge watched them, so they are watchable. So, but
and Conrad, I have some shameless plugs coming up, so
okay,
thank you
cool.
for that. Before you go, I would invite everyone to take out their phones one last time, or maybe a second to last time. I would love to hear how you thought this session went. It's something new that we're trying. We are always trying to improve continually. And so we are seeking some feedback on how this session went. And folks over in Zoom land, you can also let us know how it went by scanning this QR code. And you can register for the remaining sessions of Season 2 of this webinar series by scanning this QR code. And if you have scanned too many QR codes and you can't remember what you scanned or where you've been, take one of the bookmarks in the room, and that will take you to stopfoodborneillness.org, where you can find all of the information that you found or that you heard today, along with all of the other webinars that you can binge watch. I would like to thank the participants once again. This was amazing. I had a great time. I got to push the button a couple of times, so thank you for letting me do that. And I hope you all learned a lot. Shake hands.